Police. Secret police. Sneaky police.
From Ugg the Caveman Cop to whatever dystopian future this is, police have existed in some form or another throughout all of human history. One little-known example of police in history is the Embroidered Uniform Guard, a group of police submerged in subterfuge and a lot of executions. First established by the Hongwu Emperor Zhu Yuanzhang, they were intended to serve as his personal bodyguards. Now let me tell you something. When Zhu Yuanzhang was establishing the sect of police, he went a little mad with power. He made it so these police were allowed to overturn any judicial proceeding, were allowed to arrest whomever they pleased, interrogate anyone who was deemed suspicious, and dole out punishments to those who were deserving. These powers would later be expanded to be able to even investigate officials from the government. Now this may sound like a lot, and that's because it is. Zhu consolidated a lot of power in these secret police because he was very paranoid that his subjects were unloyal. This paranoia would also lead him to establish over 1,000 crimes that led to many different and morbidly creative ways of capital punishment. It's ad time. Are you or a loved one worried that you committed a crime in ancient China over 653 years ago? Then don't worry. We at Jack Gianna Johnson & Johnson Incorporated, aka JGJJ, have dealt with the worst of the worst, and we're here to stick it to that old sack of bones, Zhu Yuanzhang. So if you fall under one of these categories, call now. Theft of official property, embezzling, high treason, rebellion, rioting, patricide, murder, sacrilege, unfaithful conduct, discord, failure of one's duties, one's neighbor, and etc. End of ad time. That was good. What do these police look like? You're probably not asking. Well, I have an answer. Their uniforms were certainly something. Looking at them, you'd assume they would be called the standout police, because there's nothing secret about them. They would dress in a bright red dragon embroidered uniform that would stick out in any crowd. They would have an ivory tablet worn around their torso identifying them as the Embroidered Uniform Guard, and they would have a special blade that would be identifiable by anyone. It's evident that these guys would turn heads when they walked into the room. The notorious uniform, combined with their unwavering investigations and brutal treatment of prisoners, would earn them the reputation as bloodhounds. Once they found your scent, you were better off dead. The only way you're gonna understand this nickname is through story. Cue elevator story time.
Hello, it's Gianna. I was also part of this project. Once upon a time, there was a great general named Lan Yu. Although being a great military commander, he was a pretty arrogant guy who did a lot to make the government mad. This caused the Embroidered Guard to become suspicious of him and accused him of rebellion. To this day, historians still don't know what they said or who they talked to in order to gain this suspicion. However, they did end up finding over 10,000 swords in his house and convicted him of treason. What was the punishment for having enough swords to supply an entire army in his house? His entire bloodline was eliminated. The Embroidered Uniform Guard eliminated every dad, son, second cousin, or anyone remotely related to him. Brutal, right? This is just the beginning of it. There are plenty of stories to go along with this. The Embroidered Uniform Guard was not a force to mess with.
I hope this episode of Elevator Storytime has given you enough context to just how brutal and effective the Embroidered Uniform Guard was. See you later. Sometimes, you don't realize they were the good old days until they're gone. Of course, they were not the good old days, as they were under strict dictatorial rule, and frankly, having police above the law doesn't seem like the best idea. Nothing lasts forever, and that is also true for the Embroidered Uniform Guard. That story you just heard was the reason the police's power got reduced. The government was afraid and scared about how powerful they were and how they killed over 40,000 people over a single crime, which is probably just reasoning now that I'm saying it out loud. That was the end. However, this wasn't the end of the story. After the Yongle Emperor came back into power, he was petrified of his citizens because he had overthrown the last leader. In order to quell this fear, he reinstated them! He reinstated the power of the Embroidered Uniform Guard. But I have a confession to make. Earlier during the sacred elevator story time, I had Gianna lie to you. You see, historians do know how the Embroidered Uniform Guard found out about Lan Yu's planned rebellion. The person who told him, the person who caused the Embroidered Uniform Guard to lose power, the very person who changed the course of history, the very man that reinstated them. That's right, the Yongle Emperor. Cue elevator story time.
Lan Yu had been friends with the Crown Prince Zhu Bao for a long time. Zhu Bao was going to go into power when the Emperor died, and worried for his friend's future position in power, Lan Yu had warned Zhu Bao that the future Yongle Emperor, Zhu Di, was a threat to his power. Zhu Di heard about this, and he was not happy. After Zhu Bao died, he tipped off the Embroidered Uniform Guard. That was what caused the Uniform Guard to search his house and then get their power reduced because they killed his entire bloodline very savagely. With two of Zhu Di's main rivals out of the way, Zhu Di had one target left. The future crown prince and friend of Lan Yu, Zhu Yunwen. Zhu Di let Zhu Yunwen into power. He knew he was immature, and he knew he would make a mistake. And make a mistake he did. After abusing his power and executing many people, Zhu Di got the pretext needed to overthrow the Emperor Zhu Yunwen. He seized the throne, and after in power, he re-established the very organization he destroyed in order to gain power. The Embroidered Uniform Guard. Karma is a fickle fellow, however, and the Yongle Emperor would die in a military excursion against the Mongols, while being protected by the Embroidered Uniform Guard. The Embroidered Uniform Guard would persist for over 200 years, protecting many emperors from assassinations, and probably committing a lot of war crimes in the process. But we still love them. Alas, all morally ambiguous but definitely evil organizations come to an end like they started. With a whimper, fading into ambiguity. Thank you for listening.